in this AFC North battle, just how impressive was this win for Cleveland, scoring 41 points on the road against an up and coming team like the Bengals?
Well, in order to answer that question, I don't know how to feel about Cincinnati. I don't know how good they really are. I mean, they 3 weeks ago they go and they beat down on Baltimore, absolute blowout, and then they come down and they lose to the Jets last week, and now they get run through by Cleveland. And I think this kind of makes sense because of their youth. They're still very young. Joe Burrow is still out there making mistakes that young quarterbacks make, which is fine. Only his second year in the league. He didn't even finish his rookie year because of that nasty injury. But but the difference in this game was turnovers. I think Joe had two interceptions and a fumble, and Cleveland didn't turn the ball over a single time. The way the game started, Kevin and I were actually watching that first possession. Joe Burrow drove the ball all the way down
Mm-hmm.
to the red zone,
Yep.
and it ends in a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown, a pick six. And that's deflating for an offense. Now, to give them credit, they came back and they drove down the field again and scored on the next possession. But Cleveland came back and answered, and every time Cincinnati may have gone on a little run, Cleveland responded with a bigger response. So I think it was. I mean, that Cleveland defense is really good. There's no questions about that. But the teams that defend well and run the ball well typically win the game. So not shocked to see Cleveland win the game. I think it is a good win for them, especially the way that they beat down on Cincinnati. It's encouraging to see them come out there and play their style of football, even with all the drama going on with Odell. But I think they're on the right track. If they can get Kareem back soon, they can stick to their game plan. Nick Chubb ran the ball at an incredible rate. I think he was averaging like 9.8 a carry, which is ridiculous. But that's what we've come accustomed to getting from Nick Chubb. So if they can come into games, establish the run consistently, their defense is good enough to hold opposing teams to low-scoring games. And we've seen Baker be able to play in that atmosphere, where he doesn't have to take the big shot down the field consistently. As long as they're not relying on him to put up massive points, I think they're going to be okay.
So I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, first and foremost, goddamn, thank God I got Nick Chubb in fantasy. Secondly, I'm saying, Kyle, we've been talking about this since last year when Joe Burrow got drafted. They're not able to keep him upright. They're not able to protect their franchise quarterback. He was sacked 5 times today. And some of them looked really bad, where he was getting clobbered and knocked around. Not to mention any rushes and hurries and QB knockdowns. Cleveland was in that backfield all game long, and Joe wasn't able to get into a rhythm. Obviously, at this point, you're looking at it at the same time and saying, well, Cincinnati's rush offense didn't help either. Joe Mixon was only given 13 total touches, so they did try to force the ball down the field. Granted, Cleveland went on that scoring spree in the second and third quarter and scored 27 total points in those 2 quarters alone, not to mention the 7 they put up in the fourth quarter. So from start to finish, there's absolutely no stopping Cleveland's offense. And again, that's in huge part to Nick Chubb playing great. Dearness Johnson only had 8 total touches for 16 yards. So not like it was an open field, like a Kareem Hunt there being like it would have been. But overall, Baker managed the game well, didn't turn the ball over. He was sacked twice, but 14 out of 21 for 218 and 2 touchdowns. It's good enough to get it done. But my biggest thing is Baker is not a dynamic game changer. He's not a quarterback that's going to go out there and win you a game. And you think about it and you say, well, if Joe Burrow stays up or if Joe Burrow doesn't turn the ball over, I'm playing the what-if game. But would Baker have been able to hold this lead? Jamar Chase dropped the fucking touchdown today. And I mean, I needed that for fantasy. So he obviously wasn't thinking about me. So let's put that out there, goddammit. But Jamar dropped one, in the actual breadbasket. It couldn't have been a better ball from Joe. And the defender had no chance to get it because it went over his head and it just fell in. So, they also had deflating instances where they got no points out of certain drives as well. So I think this game could have been a little bit closer, but I agree completely with AJ. The identity of the Cincinnati Bengals is yet to be really determined, or should I be, like really revealed, because they started off so hot, but because they're so young, are they going to come back up and ride another hot streak? Are they going to fall down because they have no confidence, or are they going to stay stagnant and win a game or two here and there? The AFC North is a tight battle right now. 5-4 Cleveland, 5-4 Cincinnati, and Baltimore wins today to move to 7-2, right? Was it 7?
It's either like 6-2 or 7-2.
So one of the two, right? And at the end of the day, the division is very, very close. But Cincinnati, I really got to put you guys on blast here. This is back-to-back games where you're not only letting up a lot of points on the defense, but your offense just isn't able to freaking carry and finish through. So I don't necessarily know what's going to happen go forward. Zach Taylor is a brilliant offensive mind in terms of getting this team and rallying them together as a young unit. But it's about how you handle adversity in the NFL and, what can your quarterback do for you in these crunch time situations. Joe had 282, but he had no touchdowns, and he just could not keep the ball out of the opposing team's hands. So back to the drawing board for this team as well. Kudos to Cleveland, Odell drama aside. They did what they needed to do. They mollywopped the team in their division, and now they're 5-4 above 500.
Well, I'm going to start here with Cleveland just because, they scored 41 points on the road against Cincinnati. And, this was an offensive performance that I was really kind of not expecting from Cleveland just because the last month or so, they have been really struggling to put up points on the board. And in large part, that's due to the fact that the Browns were just hurt as a team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Baker's dealing with that torn labrum issue that's going to linger throughout the entire season. And, a lot of their scoring in the last 3 games were in the teens. These are low-scoring games that they were putting on the board, and I thought it was going to be more of the same against Cincinnati. But I got to give credit to the Browns. They played an outstanding offensive game against Cincinnati just because they were able to get great production across the board in the passing game, in the run game, and they were able to receive the ball well as far as their wideouts go. Baker was efficient today. Completed about 66% of his passes. And Nick Chubb, he looks fully healthy once again because he just ripped it up and down the field against Cincinnati's defense at will. I believe he had like a 75-yard rushing touchdown. That was like the second one of the game that pretty much ended it as far as Cincinnati's chances to get back into it. But from beginning to end, Cleveland was just outstanding. In the first half, they were able to get that pick 6 early off of Joe Burrow. And then it was kind of like a dogfight throughout the first quarter because Cincinnati was able to tie it up at 7-7. But Cleveland went on a huge run in that second quarter. They put up 17 points to Cincinnati's 3 in the second quarter. So, going into halftime, you're up 24-10. To be up 2 possessions on the road in a critical AFC North divisional battle, that's huge. And then they were able to continue it in the second half by putting up 17 points, 10 in the third quarter, and then 7 in the fourth quarter. So, it's a well-rounded win for Cleveland. It's like I said, they really needed to get this one because with the Odell drama that had been going on the last couple of weeks, they'd been on a 2 to 3 game skid prior to getting this win over Cincinnati. It looked like they were kind of like falling out of the order or falling out of the top of the AFC North, but this kind of puts them right back in that mix moving forward. And then to kick it to Cincinnati, there's no other way I could say this. They're just going through growing pains. Granted, there's a lot of potential with this team, but they're very young and they're prone to making mistakes, and we're seeing it once again. Last week, they gave up a 2-possession lead to Mike White, the backup quarterback for the Jets.
To go to both goats.
Bro, he looked like Tom Brady out there last week against Cincinnati's
He
defense.
may be better.
Bro, it's just, you give up that 2-possession lead to the Jets, you lose 34-31 last week, and then the defense gives up 41 to Baker Mayfield and that Browns offense. And this is after Baker has looked pretty inconsistent the last couple of weeks. Nick Chubb has been in and out of the lineup, but you give up this type of performance on the defensive side of the ball, you're never going to win games like this. So my biggest concern moving forward is clearly, like what Kevin said, they are not protecting Joe Burrow whatsoever. He is just getting hit left and right. And, those hits are going to pile up. We've seen quarterbacks, especially in their younger stages of their career, if they're not protected well, injuries are going to become a factor. And it may even throw in some confidence issues just because they're always in fear of getting hit by defenders. So that'll be something to monitor moving forward. But another issue with Cincinnati is their defense. You gave up 34 last week. You give up 41 against Cleveland, excuse me. Man, that's not a winning formula. You tie that all together. Cincinnati, they got off to a very hot start this year, but they've really kind of come back down to earth the last couple weeks. And, they're going to have to kind of figure a way to rally the troops to get back onto the winning side of the scoreboard moving forward, because, man, if this defense is giving points up like that, wins are going to be hard to come by for Cincinnati moving forward when you go along with the fact that Joe Burrow's turning the ball over and he's getting hit like every other play. So, yeah, there's definitely some issues with Cincinnati that are definitely mounting in the middle part of the season. But, all in all, the AFC North is a toss-up right now. It's like Kevin mentioned, Baltimore is at the top right now, but, Cincinnati and Cleveland and Pittsburgh are kind of all in that same mix there. So it's going to be a very interesting stretch in the second half of the season, seeing which team is going to be really kind of competing against the Ravens, because the Ravens really kind of look like that team that seemed to be the odds-on favorite to be the divisional winner when it's all said and done in the AFC North.